Why, hello everyone, and welcome to today's portion of the Leadership Series, presented by the New Jersey Visionary Cyber Leo Club. My name is Joshua Gorniak, and I'll be your host for today's session. And I am looking forward to everything that will be going on today. Up until now, this program has taught our attendees how to hone in on their leadership skills, whilst providing them with crucial insight from esteemed and experienced Alliance members. Today, we continue this theme by focusing around a certain aspect of leaders' role, that being delegation. As we will continue to learn, leaders can not only be steadfast and independent, but must also be understanding of the people which they represent, whether that be within the Leo Club itself or even on the world stage. Now, a quick reminder to our audience. Make sure to fill out the attendance form for today's episode in order to receive a certificate of proof for being here with us today. And the link is on the bottom and will continue to appear throughout the broadcast. Now, before we welcome our speaker, let's hear a message from Leadership Chair Leo Ojas Chitnis.
Thank you so much, Leo Joshua. Thank you all so much for joining us again. Each and every week, I'm so surprised and so amazed by the incredible response that we get from all of the Leos and Lions from all over the world. Just looking at the chat right now, I can see we have Leos and Lions from Venezuela, from Peru, from India, from all over the world, including in our own club. And I think I just like to use this message as a point of reflection. Thank you all for helping us so far, supporting all of our efforts, and coming out each and every week for really making this the best leadership series that it could possibly be. We've got an incredible speaker who I've been privileged to know for many years and see in action, and I think that you'll all very much enjoy this presentation. And really, there isn't much for me to say. I think, once again, thank you all for joining. Like Josh said, please claim your attendance certificate in the link below. And I think one thing I'd just like to touch on very briefly is that we've got kind of a turbulent situation right now in Lions Club International. Of course, we're disappointed that our convention will be held virtually, but I think that we have a ton of great virtual events coming up in the next months. And unfortunately, although we can't see each other in Montreal, I think we're going to be seeing each other from the comfort of our own home come June 2021. So see you all then, and good luck to our host and our speaker, and I think we're going to make it a great one.
Thank you, Leo Ojas Chitnis. Now, as Ojas previously mentioned, I'd like to give my warm welcome to today's speaker, Robert W. Moore, an esteemed Lions member who has dedicated over 2 decades of his time to the betterment of the organization as well as his community. Lion Robert W. Moore joins us today to discuss the leader's role as a delegate. Lion Moore will speak from experience, as he had the opportunity to serve as the director of the International Association of Lions Clubs. Here he is. I'm glad he could join us today.
Thank you very much, Leo Joshua. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I do want to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this leadership series and to contribute in some way, shape, or form. I hope that there are some nuggets of wisdom that I can impart that will be helpful to you. But first of all, I want to thank you for all that you do as Leos. You make a significant contribution not only to your community, but to people that you've never met and probably will never meet in places around the world. You are certainly helping to contribute in your way to world peace and make this a better place to live. So for that, I want to thank you. Unless any of you have been totally incommunicado, you realize that today is Super Bowl Sunday. For those of us in the United States, this is a very, very special day. And most of us will be concentrating on food, commercials, and of course, what is happening on the field. And on the field, you will have players with designated roles, designated tasks. But what we kind of tend to forget is on the sidelines, there are also individuals who make some significant contributions. Those are the coaches. As an aside, today is the first time we have 2 female coaches in the Super Bowl. So that will be very interesting in and of itself. But we have an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, line coaches, lineback coaches, quarterback coaches, special team coaches, all of whom have the authority to make some decisions, all, again, supervised by a head coach who has the ultimate responsibility. But The fact is that at the end of the game, there will be a winner and there will be an MVP. But all this only can be possible because of the contributions of many people. One person cannot do it alone. In each phase, there is somebody who is making contributions to the success of the team. In fact, in every enterprise, sports, business, Lions, Leos, the success of the organization is primarily due to the delegation of tasks and the successful completion of those tasks. There is a major difference here between you, sports, and business and other enterprises, and that is the fact that those people are getting paid. Those people are doing this for their livelihood. You are here because you are volunteers. And that's the one thing that we as leaders must remember, that we are dealing with people who are giving of themselves, volunteering their time. They don't have to be here. What they are doing is an act of concern, compassion, and love. So the motivation is going to be quite different. If you look up delegation and try to find books about delegation, either from Barnes and Noble or Amazon, what you'll find is that the title of these books is very interesting because successful delegation is an art, not a science. You'll see books that would say the art of delegation. It is a skill that takes practice. It's not just merely telling somebody to do something. As a leader, you're going to come to realize that delegating has a few components that have to be taken into account. And perhaps the best way to think of it is to approach it in the same way that a journalist approaches a story. You have to look at it from the standpoint of what, why, who, how, and when. The elements that you are looking at contribute to how you delegate. For example, what exactly is the task that you want done? It's very helpful that when you are assigning a task, you define in specific terms exactly what it is that you want accomplished. For example, if you assign someone the task of organizing a party, uh, you have to be very specific as to what you want at that party. Maybe the types of food, maybe the decorations, uh, anything that you want to see as part of that outcome. You also have to, particularly in volunteerism, why do you want to have this task done? You have to spell out the terms of what you want to do, want to have done, and clear about the reasons why you want to have it done. Because again, you are trying to motivate somebody to do something that they don't necessarily have to do. It gets down now to who do you want to do the task. In choosing a person to do a task, you have to take into account various factors. For example, has the person the ability to take on the task? Is a person willing to take on the task? Now, many times the individual has to be encouraged to do so. Maybe they don't have the specific confidence to do so, and you see within them the ability that they can, in fact, not only complete the task, but complete it very successfully. So, this is one of the components of being a leader, to be able to lead the person who is doing this task. And again, when does a task have to be done by? So, you have to specifically state when you want this task to be completed. These are some of the things that you have to look at as a leader if you are delegating. Now, with any enterprise, there are various pros and cons of doing something, and there are various pros and cons of delegating. And let's look at the cons and get them out of the way first, the barriers to somebody delegating. First of all, there are many leaders who want to do things personally. They've grown up perhaps with the adage that the best way to get things done right is to do it yourself. The problem with this is that this suggests a lack of trust or confidence in the people that you have as members of your club. to whom that you are going to delegate a task. And this, of course, obviously poses a problem. If you want to do things yourself, what you are doing is saying that there's nobody else who is competent, and that, again, may pose a problem. There's also in some leaders the idea that they don't want to give up power; they want to retain power. And in a sense, by assigning tasks, what you are doing is giving up your authority. Um, in If you do actually sometimes give up the authority, sometimes you have people who have the tendency to micromanage. What they will do is to virtually be over the shoulder of the individuals who are attempting to do the task, and this, of course, kind of poses problems for some leaders. If they delegate, their fear that they're going to make a mistake, that the individual that they have assigned this task to is not going to be able to fulfill this. They may mess up in some way. And there's also that fear that the person who does this task is going to go off in a different direction than the leader intended them to do. There's also a fear that they may have of not getting credit for this particular project or task. Sometimes leaders do want to retain that aspect of being uh, linked with a successful project. That maybe the individual who you have assigned the task to is going to get more credit than you do. And sometimes there are some leaders who will assign tasks, but these tasks are very menial. They're unimportant, they're unchallenging. There are tasks that the person to whom they are assigned may say, why am I doing this? Of what importance? I could be doing other things. So it comes down to this whole concept that the negatives usually are involved with the aspect of trust and communication. Therefore, if we look at the converse of this, and that's the pros, we find that the pros do, in fact, help to encourage not only success but growth. One of the pros, obviously, is that when you are assigning something, it encourages growth and confidence within the members themselves, the person to whom it's assigned, and to the entire club itself. Um, Especially when you do a project that, again, in the beginning may not look to be that promising, and you bring it to fruition. I am thinking of one particular project that we have in District 16N in one club, and that is the Woodridge Club. The Woodridge Club, 30 years ago, decided to initiate a project, and lo and behold, it had to do with the Super Bowl. They decided to establish a Super Bowl party, and it was a fundraiser. And one individual had the task of trying to put this together. The first Super Bowl party had about 100 people, and a little over 100 people. And it was a nice fundraiser, but it really needed a few more components. So what happened was they put together a trivia contest. They also now brought in guest speakers. They also auctioned off prizes and got contributions from many different businesses within the town. And within a couple of years, they had 600 people coming to this Super Bowl. The problem was that they could not find a venue that would hold over 600 people, because this is the hottest ticket in North Jersey. People want to come to this party um, from all over the state. And what we have is a project that has raised usually $50,000 a year. It has raised well over $1 million for the Woodbridge Club, all because this was something that was delegated by the leadership and has become a staple of, again, the Woodbridge Lions. One of the other pros is that it gives others the ability to learn and develop new skills, the opportunity for members to refine some organizational and research skills. In other words, for them to get out of their comfort zone. And this is one of the things that is a benefit to delegating. It helps people get out of their comfort zone. Like, for example, being given an assignment, doing a presentation on delegating helps to get out of the comfort zone, because what you have to do is prepare, organize, refine what you are going to say. And all of this may develop hidden skill or reveal hidden skills and develop growth and confidence. It also provides an opportunity to develop trust between the leaders and the members, because by delegating, a president or committee chair has the opportunity to observe the skill and reliability of the member to take on a task and to see it through. By the same token, that individual who is assigned the task can see that they have the backing and the confidence of the leadership, and this may spur them on to take on other assignments as well. But what it does is also improves communication. Trust that needs to be developed between the leaders and the members is developed through, again, successful delegation. The leaders have to successfully and effectively communicate what they want done and the outcomes that they expect. But the member, the person to whom this is assigned, must communicate to the leaders what they are doing, some of the difficulties they are encountering, and the progress that they are making with that particular assignment. In the end, what delegating does is to improve efficiency and productivity. A project can be done much more efficiently with others taking on the authority to see the project through to its completion. And what this does is to free up the leadership, you as a leader, to perhaps look at other matters, to concentrate on other things, and perhaps even expand the role of what the club itself does. It stimulates creativity, because the person to whom perhaps this project is assigned may see things from a much different angle, a much different approach than you as a leader may have seen it. And the outcome may indeed be better than what the leader had envisioned it to be. So it helps in so many different ways to involve the club, involve the membership, to do things that, again, will create a success for the club. In short, there are three elements in delegating: authority, responsibility, and accountability. The authority is given to the individual to whom this task is assigned. And this authority that is given must be given to allow them flexibility to complete the task. Now, let's take, for example, what we were talking about before, maybe organizing a party. If the person is given the authority, it may involve purchasing supplies, it may involve making some commitments, it may be the idea of issuing invitations. So the person has the authority to do these things. They have to have the ability to be able to complete the task. But at the same time, there is responsibility. A leader has the responsibility, the ultimate responsibility of the outcome. You have the delicate task as a leader of being helpful, but not overbearing. And the fact is that this is a very, very delicate skill. It's something that, again, it comes through practice, comes through, this entire aspect of putting your trust in other individuals. There is a phrase that you can delegate authority, but you cannot delegate responsibility. that as a leader, you have the ultimate responsibility of what the outcomes are. One of the best examples that I can give of an individual who knew about responsibility is President Harry Truman. On April 12th, 1945, Harry Truman became an accidental president upon the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt. And he came into a tremendous crisis. It was now the end of the Second World War. It was still something where some momentous decisions had to be made. And of course, one of the most momentous decisions he made was the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But the fact is that he took on responsibilities, and there was a placard that was on his desk. To give you a little background to that, there is a phrase called "passing the buck," and it comes from poker, of which Harry Truman was an avid poker player. And the buck was a marker that was passed from person to person, indicating that that person was to deal the cards. If a person did not want to deal the cards, what they did was to pass the buck. In other words, they passed the responsibility on to somebody else. On Harry Truman's desk, there was this placard: "The buck stops here." The realization that as the President of the United States, he had the ultimate authority. He couldn't pass on the responsibility to somebody else. So, as a leader, you have the responsibility to make sure that things are done. You can confer authority, but responsibility comes to you. And lastly, there's accountability. And in this, both the member and the leader are accountable for the outcomes. In the sense that this is a partnership, because what you are doing is to make sure that in some way you are, again, up to the challenge of completing a task. You, as the individual who's been given the task, and the individual who has been assigned the task. So, in all, delegating is a challenge. It's a difficult challenge, but ultimately is a rewarding aspect of leadership, because what you are able to do is to see projects come to through a fruition, a success, but also see your members grow in confidence and, in a way, start them on their path to becoming leaders. I hope this has been helpful to you in some way, shape, or form, and I will turn this over to Leo Joshua for any questions anybody might have.
Yep, thank you so much, PID Robert, for the insightful presentation. I am sure that our audience members found every ounce of it to be both important and helpful, as I most certainly did. Now, before we wrap up for today, as PID Bob mentioned, if anyone has some questions, I encourage you to write them down in the comment box below, and hopefully PID Bob can answer them for you. So, any questions are welcome right now. And of course, these questions can range from anything during the presentation or anything outside of such, pertaining to delegation or any other leadership qualities, of course. And while we're waiting, I'd like to take this time to thank you once again for showing up here and taking time out of your schedule to be here with us today, Katie Bob. So thank you for that.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I see a question here, I think that's popped up. How can you identify future potential leaders in your club, district, or multiple district?
That's a very good question because the way you can identify them is to, again, have the confidence in them to give them tasks that develop them to allow them to grow, allow them to be creative. And again, as I said at the outset, delegating is a trial and error art. It is something that again you have to take a chance, and in so many ways, when we develop leadership, what we're looking at is the ability of that individual to grow, the ability of that individual to again take on assignments. So it's the type of thing where you are observing that individual, you are looking at the qualities that they have, and trying to bring out those qualities that again are essential for leadership, and that is certainly communication. That's certainly the ability to be flexible, the ability to trust. So those are things that again you are looking at in terms of developing a leader. And again, it is not an exact science by any means. It is an art form that, again, you have to continually um, uh, engage in.
Thank you for that response. And it seems we have another question. Uh, a fellow member asks, on the topic of growth, what lessons can we learn from failure?
Okay, I'm sorry that I didn't.
Yep, no problem. On the topic of growth, what lessons can we learn from failure?
Okay, there are a few lessons that I think our connections will fuzzy here. Um, there are a lot of lessons that come from failure. Um, One of the things that is a phrase uh, is to get good judgment, you have to have experience. What does experience come from but bad judgment? And the idea is that if you have some failures, if you have some setbacks, uh, failure is not final. You look at some of those setbacks, and you have to kind of kind of draw back and look what nuggets can I take from these setbacks. Um, and the idea is that your growth is going to come not just from the things that you succeed in, but the things that you have again experienced as a failure. I can think of many times in my life that there are certain things that I have experienced. The first time I tried public speaking in high school, I botched up the speech. I was absolutely terrified, and I tried to look at this from the standpoint that okay. I made a bad speech. I was, unable to communicate, but I'm going to try again. I'm going to give it another opportunity. I'm going to talk about something that I know about, and I did. Start on that road to being able to speak in public, and you know, again, I learned from my failures, not always from my successes.
Yeah, but thank you for that response. I feel like our failures are oftentimes just as important as our successes because they provide an
Exactly.
opportunity for us to learn from them and come back stronger than before. So thank you for that. It really spoke with me. So and it seems like we are not getting any other questions. So
Actually, I see
we
one
are
here. I see one here. What has been your most memorable experience as a lion?
My most memorable experience as a lion. That is an extremely good question. I have had so many so many memories. I think that one of my most memorable ones was the first time that I went up to Camp Marcella. And Camp Marcella, as most of you know, is our New Jersey camp for blind children. I was very fortunate to serve as chairman of the board for a number of years. But when I went up there and saw what was being done, how kids who were blind and felt that they were the only ones in the world that had this affliction were now realizing that there were others like them, that they were not uh, individuals that were unique in that respect, that there were people who shared that same affliction. When I saw what the Lions of New Jersey were doing to um, help in this enterprise, it touched me tremendously, and maybe again realized that any contribution that I made was going to be significant. And it got me involved certainly in other aspects of Lionism, but I think this was perhaps the first thing that really touched me and really got me involved further in Lionism.
Yep, more questions coming in. This one is from K Shrees from Lions Club, and they ask, if you have delegated a project to a team and realize that they are failing, would it be wrong for the leader to take over the reins, or should he evaluate and assign another team?
Again, that is a very good question, and it depends on the circumstances. If there is a situation where individual can be helped, where they can be encouraged, certainly it is advisable to help that individual to to give them the support that they need. If it is determined that the success of that project it depends upon that person being replaced, it is your responsibility to replace that individual. Um, those of us who have served again in leadership capacities have made decisions in delegating that sometimes did not turn out. I can recall when I was a district governor, uh, the most important appointments that I made were zone chairs. And there was one situation where a zone chair was not working out. Uh, and I had to take the delicate task of relieving that individual, firing that individual, to make sure that the ultimate success of that year was fulfilled. So it is one of those things where you have to evaluate the situation itself. You have to look at what is occurring and what the individual who has been assigned that task is capable or not capable of doing. But in the end, you as a leader are responsible. So with that responsibility, you have to make that decision whether or not to continue with that particular individual in the task or replace them. Uh, it is, again, one of the tenets of leadership is to make those decisions.
Thank you for that response and for your previous responses as well. They were all pretty insightful, and I learned a lot, as I can assume our audience did as well. Now, before we wrap up for today, since we have no other questions, let's draw our attention back to Leo Otis Fitness once again.
Thank you so much, Leo Joshua. Thank you so much, PID Bob. I think I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. I think based on the comments, our entire audience did as well. Once again, thank you all for joining us. And I'd just like to spotlight very briefly what we have upcoming in this coming week. PID Bob did an amazing job speaking about delegation. And next week, speaking about public relations, we have PDG Jody Burmeister from all the way from Wisconsin. Again, speaking about public relations, she's done an incredible job. She's worked on the Lions virtual team for many months now, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy that as well. As Joshua said before, if you'd like to claim your attendance certificate, please go to the link that is going to be scrolling at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the chat history for YouTube and Facebook. And I think, once again, I can't say it enough. Thank you for joining us, continuing to join us, and we hope to see you again next week. Please reach out to us on Facebook and YouTube. We can't wait to hear your comments, your feedback, and see you all next week.
Thank you.